everyone, and this is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling on April 18th, 2013. And I'll go off and say right from the get-go, mainly this show was based around keeping the Aces and Eights a dominant group or the dominant force on the show. You definitely saw that throughout the entire thing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. Overall, I felt the show was actually a fairly decent show. Some very good in-ring action, some well-done promos in the backstage as well. The triple threat match with Zema Ion, Petey Williams and Kenny King for the X Division title was a fairly good match in my mind. So far with the whole new aspect to the X Division, pretty much all their matches being triple threat, and with the rule with the title matches, the loser is out of the title picture while the person who wasn't pinned stays in. It's an interesting concept. The only thing that I really have a problem with it is it's saying that they really don't have a storyline for Kenny King or the X Division in general at this point. So that's a little bit sad, but at least the matches themselves are fairly exciting and fun to watch. And this one was just another case of that. The #1 contendership knockouts for the Knockouts title, the match with Mickie James and Brooke Tessmacher, honestly was a fairly good match. It wasn't too bad, with the exception of a little bit of a sloppy ending in there. But overall, the match itself was a fairly decent match and a fun one to watch as well. And again, with AJ Styles and James Storm in general, you knew those two were going to put on a very good match. I like the new more methodical style that they have for AJ Styles in the ring. It fits his character where he's at right now. He's not just doing a whole bunch of high flying. He's doing more ground and pound. Adds a submission in there this week. So it's definitely nice to see him actually change his pace in the ring and not just go back to his old style of doing things. It kind of shows that AJ can work kind of both sides of the fence in making a good wrestling match. He could do the high flying stuff, but he can also work a more methodical, more technical type match. And it was actually very fun to watch in my mind, just on that sense. So basically, after just talking about those, also with a couple of the good backstage promos, the backstage promo with Matt Morgan. Honestly, like I said last week, I want to see more of Matt Morgan taking action inside the ring versus just verbally taking his action against Hulk Hogan and how he feels his mistakes and about his mistakes. I'm hoping to see a little bit more furtheration of this storyline where he's either going to be trying to take out each of those mistakes one at a time, or is he just going to keep verbalizing his grievances against Hulk Hogan into the future. I'm hoping they're going to take it into a direction where Matt Morgan is taking more of an in-ring action type deal with the storyline. The promos he's been cutting recently, he's been doing a very good job on them, and hopefully they can continue that on into the future as well. Now this basically does bring me to what the main focal point of the show was, which was the Aces and Eights and how they were keeping them dominant throughout the show. I mean, you had the match with Garrett Bischoff and Wes Briscoe versus Kurt Angle right at the beginning of the show. And the way they really portrayed them was, it was a glorified, elongated squash match between them, where Kurt Angle dominated the entire match, and they basically gained the win through cheap tactics and everything on that aspect. So it makes them look a little bit weak, but then again, it makes them look strong because they're in numbers and on every sense of that. I like the aspect that they were going to have the television title match with Devon and Magnus, and so Aces and Eights attack Magnus as he's coming out to the ring. Of course, after everything was done, Samoa Joe does come out eventually. I just like the aspect I really liked about that was that instead of just leaving it there and leaving it for like next week or something, they actually did something that night with Samoa Joe and Devon, where Samoa Joe took the television title match against Devon, and eventually, of course, with the fact that they were making aces and eights look extremely dominant, of course, Devon goes over in this case. Again, maybe just with cheap tactics, but in the end was definitely a way of keeping them the dominant force on the show. You had a decent promo cut right at the beginning of the show from Mr. Anderson saying, if basically forewarning everybody about how everything was going to go on. Basically saying if you didn't have the aces and ace jackets, something bad's going to happen to you tonight. And that's what happened for the most part. I mean, even at the end of the AJ Styles James Storm match, first of all, I like the aspect that they didn't really reveal anything with AJ Styles. He didn't really choose sides. It made it look like he was going to choose the side of Daniels and Kazarian, but he ends out attacking them in the end. And then eventually just him walking out as aces and eights, jump in there and swarm the James Storm, Kazarian, and Daniels. So on that aspect, again, just to end the show, decent promo again by, not really decent, a really good promo done by Bully Ray right at the end of there, talking about is like, we've taken out all your heroes, you've got no one left type deal. I want to see where they go with that, see where they're going to go with that storyline, who is going to be the next hero. More than likely it will be Sting, in my thoughts, but maybe they'll throw a little curveball in there and bring in somebody different for that aspect, but we'll see where they actually go on that. The other aspect that I'm actually going to talk about, because that was the main focal point of the show right there, was basically Aces and Eights. The other aspect that I wanted to talk about was the fact that how TNA is promoting their Impact Wrestling now, and that's just how how they have to do things now. They have to promote their Impact Wrestlings as bigger events because they don't have as many pay-per-views. And for some people who aren't used to it, like I was back in the day, slower storyline build-up as well, going into potential pay-per-views or anything in that aspect. Next week they made the announcement. You have Bobby Roode and Austin Aries going for the tag team titles. They're getting their rematch. They had a really good promo with Kazarian and Daniels earlier in the show as well. Basically just saying, we're still here. We still want these titles. It looks like they're going to try to keep the Bobby Roode and Austin Aries together for the time being. And I actually like them teaming up together. I would like to see them actually gain more than just the tag team titles at some point, but we'll see where they go with that. And then, of course, they made the Knockouts title match, and they did a decent promo, showing that Velvet Sky had injured her knee, and she might be going into this match not at 100% type deal with her match with Mickie James. So that was a nice little touch that they threw in there. They're promoting these Impact Wrestlings more as a bigger type event versus just another Impact show at that point in time. So that was. That's been a really nice touch that I've seen over the last few weeks through Impact Wrestling. Overall, again, this week's Impact with the Aces and Eights being pretty much the focal point and the dominance of the show, it ended up being a really decent show. You obviously got some really good matches in there as well. And overall, like I said, they did a decent. It was a decent job. It was a pretty good show. Very entertaining to watch. And that's my review for TNA Impact Wrestling this week. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.